Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Module 7. I'm really excited about getting to talk about Stephen Crane, but I'm also very aware that our time for studying him is also positioned against a very demanding week of work for you. So I'm going to split my time talking here between those things. Since I brought it up, I'm going to reverse my usual process and talk about the work first rather than, just adding a note at the end. This week, you're asked to complete the final comprehensive paper, which puts together your initial overview of realism from Module 3 and your very recent overview of naturalism from Module 6. What we're looking for is a pretty straightforward compare-contrast piece showing how realism and naturalism are similar and how they're different. Now, the rubric for this has a lot to say, all right? It wants your paper to be 3 to 4 pages long, and it wants it to come out as, in no uncertain terms, a polished example of academic writing. It suggests that you should aim to present depth and insight into both movements. It wants you to use textual examples from our readings in class, so literary sources which illustrate your points. It wants you to demonstrate your awareness of core concepts about realism and naturalism from the course. It wants you to present an original point of view for what you see happening in these movements and for you to back up your assertions on this with evidence. It requires that you have at least 2 scholarly sources to back those ideas up. I am the first to say this is asking a lot. So what I would suggest is simply taking a breath and going back and resting on some of the work that you've already gotten done. We can treat Milestone 2 and Milestone 4 as drafts for each side of this comparison. So I think that puts us, maybe a leg up from where, from starting at 0. I will warn you, however, that just tacking the 2 drafts together is not really going to be enough. If you're in doubt or want to check in with me about any aspect of this, please do. Now, on to a few words on Crane. We're really positioning him in this course as a naturalist, and I regularly write about him in this context. However, Crane makes another great case for what I've been talking about regularly through this course. He has been treated as a realist. He has been treated as a naturalist. He has been treated as things that are entirely different and unrelated to either realism or naturalism. A huge, and this is just for an example, a really huge swath of criticism for Crane through the 20th century makes a case for him as what they term an impressionist. More or less, this argument suggests that Crane's methods are so different from any other writer of his time that he needs his own classification. So take a look at the opening paragraph of The Red Badge of Courage from 1895. And I'll just, you don't really have to take a look. Here it is. The cold passed reluctantly from the earth, and the retiring fogs revealed an army stretched out on the hills resting. As the landscape changed from brown to green, the army awakened and began to tremble with eagerness at the noise of rumors. It cast its eyes upon the roads, which were growing from long troughs of liquid mud to proper thoroughfares. A river, amber tinted in the shadow of its banks, purled at the army's feet, and at night, when the stream had become of a sorrowful blackness, one could see across it the red eye-like gleam of hostile campfires set in the low brows of distant hills. Now, people remarked, and quite rightly, that Crane really does a ton of work in representing the spaces that he depicts. Thus, they took him for a realist. At the same time, though, Crane invests a lot of effort into anthropomorphism. Everything, and I mean everything, that is mentioned in that paragraph, the earth, the river, the army, the campfires, the hills, they are all given human qualities as though each is an individual consciousness. This really gives a sense of agency to these things, a sense of the power they bring to bear against actual individuals. And this suggests concepts of naturalism. However, at the same time as both of those other things, the Unusual characterization of landscape and collective groups as living entities might be intended to shade our perceptions emotionally, much as an impressionist painter does when capturing an image of a moment in time, like a sunrise over an army camp. All right. So there are two big takeaways for this. All right. Number one, as we discussed with Gilman, you can argue for what Crane is doing in various ways. All that we care about is that you support your argument. And we'd like, of course, for you to see this week how naturalism fits with what he's doing. However, point number two, if you have a writer who falls a little ambiguously on the line between realist and naturalist, that might make this author a really good subject for your milestone 5 this week. You could use the same author, the same story, and explore how it fits some characteristics of realism and some of naturalism, thus displaying your knowledge of both. All right, so think about it and let me know what you think. And I'll talk to you next week. Adios.